There are over 6,500 languages in the world, and today we'll count down the countries that claim the most languages. The number one country has 850 languages. Can you guess what it is? Before we jump in, make sure to like and subscribe. The number 6 spot goes to Australia, or Straya, as some Australians would say. Australia is home to 25 million people, and 314 languages are spoken by its residents. English is considered to be the de facto official language of the land, but technically, Australia does not have an official language. In terms of immigrant languages, English is, of course, the most spoken, closely followed by Mandarin, Arabic, and Vietnamese. Australia's geographic positioning in Oceania and colonial alignment with England has made it a hub for immigration for other countries in Oceania, parts of Asia, and the Middle East. But in reality, most of Australia's linguistic diversity actually comes from its indigenous population, the Aboriginal people. British settlement began in 1788. Before colonization, Australia was believed to have over 200 indigenous languages. And scientific evidence suggests that Aboriginal people have lived on the continent for at least 65,000 years. So yeah, this land is not short of any linguistic diversity. It is estimated around 200 indigenous languages still exist today, but only about 20 are actually spoken. In addition to the indigenous and immigrant languages on the continent, European contact also led to the development of 2 creoles. Torres Strait Creole is spoken in Australia's southwest Papua and Queensland, whereas Creole can be heard in Western Australia and the Northern Territory of the country. For centuries, the United States took pride in being a self-proclaimed melting pot, and there's no denying the country's linguistic diversity. 326 languages are spoken by 329.5 million U.S. residents, which is why it takes the 5th spot on the list. Out of these languages, the most spoken ones are, you guessed it, English and Spanish. Then a few Chinese varieties, as well as Tagalog and Vietnamese, follow right after English and Spanish. Despite popular belief, there's actually no official language of the United States at the federal level. That being said, 31 states have their own laws proclaiming English the official language on the state level. This usually just means that it has to be used for government communications. In addition to English, a few states have declared other official languages. In 2015, Hawaii added Hawaii Pidgin English as an official language. Since then, South Dakota added Sioux, and Alaska has more than 20 indigenous languages. It's impossible to talk about the range of tongues in the U.S. without highlighting the linguistic contributions of indigenous peoples and occupied territories, especially since 227 of the U.S.'s languages come from indigenous groups. You shouldn't be surprised that India made this list. It's the 2nd most populated country in the world. India has a population of 1.38 billion people, and among that population, 454 languages are spoken. 22 of these languages are recognized in the Constitution. These include Bengali, Punjabi, Hindi, and Tamil. Also, English and Hindi, written in the Devanagari script, are recognized as the official languages of the government of India. Put another way, India has more official languages than the United Nations. But in this case, official languages aren't the same as national languages. India has no national languages because each region of the country is super diverse in terms of language, culture, and history. Someone who is not familiar with India or the region might assume that most of the country's mother tongues are mutually intelligible. They are not. Indian languages belong to 4 of the world's major language groups: Indo-European, Dravidian, Austroasiatic, and Tibeto-Burman. So some of the country's languages are vastly different from one another. Due to British colonial rule, there's quite a bit of English spoken as well, which bridges communication between many of the regions. Our third spot goes to a country in West Africa, Nigeria. With 522 languages spoken across a population of 206 million, Nigeria is a pretty big deal. Like many other nations on this list, English is an official language of Nigeria due to its long history of being under British rule. Roughly 79 million Nigerians speak English, making Nigeria one of the world's most populated Anglophone countries. A few major languages of Nigeria are Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo. Hausa is one of the biggest regional languages of West Africa, and this includes Nigeria. The Hausa people are one of the largest ethnic groups found in Africa, and they make up around 25% of Nigeria's population. Hausa belongs to the Afro-Asiatic language family. Igbo is part of the Niger-Congo family and is spoken by 24 million Nigerians. Lastly, Yoruba is related to Igbo because it's also a Niger-Congo language. That said, Yoruba language and culture is unique in its own right. Yoruba is spoken by approximately 20 million Nigerians. It is a tonal language and includes high, mid, and low tones. Due to the cultural and religious history of the region, Yoruba also includes some words from Arabic. For number 2, Indonesia, we're looking at you. Indonesia is home to 270 million people and many ethnic groups, which accounts for the existence of over 712 languages across the country. It's safe to say that Indonesia's geography is responsible for its linguistic plurality. This country is made up of 18,000 islands, although only 922 of them are inhabited. The nation's most spoken language is, you guessed it, Indonesian. This language is a member of the Austronesian language family and is spoken by 94% of Indonesia's population. Indonesian itself is a standardized version of Malay, which encompasses a range of languages and dialects that exist throughout Southeast Asia. Indonesian was declared the official language in 1930 and is taught in schools. That said, Indonesian is not the most spoken native language in the country. That designation goes to Javanese, which is the primary language of 30% of the population. Indonesia has an incredible amount of linguistic diversity, but unfortunately, due to climate change and an increasingly globalized world, many of Indonesia's 712 languages run the risk of going extinct. And number 1 on our most multilingual country countdown goes to Papua New Guinea. Yes, this country in the Southwest Pacific with a population just shy of 9 million people is the most multilingual country on Earth. Papua New Guinea is made up of 600 islands and located just north of Australia. Its official languages are English and Takpasin, an English-based Creole. You might be thinking, well, if these are the 2 official languages, then how and why does Papua New Guinea have over 800 languages in total? As of 2018, nearly 87% of the nation's land was mountainous. And these mountains are populated by tribes, which speak plenty of their own languages. This geographic makeup led to tribes being isolated from one another, allowing them to endure many years of colonization under German, British, and Australian rule. The country's indigenous tongues are known as the Papuan languages, and they're over 40,000 years old. Yep, you heard that right, 40,000 years old. And although they fall under the Papuan umbrella due to their geographic proximity, these languages do not share a single root. Whoa. So despite hundreds of years of colonization and occupation, Papua New Guinea has held on to its linguistic diversity and its title as the most multilingual country in the world. Well, there you have it, the countries with the most languages. When it comes down to it, linguistic diversity is a fight for survival, and we can all celebrate that these countries have managed to keep their many languages alive and well. Thanks for tuning into Countdown. We'll see you next time.